Howdy, my name is Keegan McInroe, and I was in that band.
Hi, Keegan. I'm Grady Sandlin.
Hey, buddy.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me to be here. I've been keeping track of your podcast and seeing lots of great artists here with you that you've played with, and I'm honored to be I'll have a little file there in the podcast thing.
We've been seeing a lot of each other, man.
Yeah,
it's been nice.
Yeah, it's been nice.
We did the Neon John release.
Yeah,
the new what was the date?
The release was Friday the 13th, February 13th.
Okay.
But we recorded it back in early April last year, 2024, 25.
Yeah. Coming up on a year anniversary of that. And then we just had 2 back-to-back Willie Specials shows.
Not 6 days apart, 8 days apart, as you pointed out. That was very good of you.
I was liking our fallible day math.
Yeah, I don't know how.
And then Big Mike thought it was Sunday the whole day yesterday, apparently.
It definitely felt like a Sunday.
Yeah.
It did. But yeah, I had a couple of Willie Specials shows. And
is it Willie Specials or the Willie Specials?
I think it's the Willie Specials,
okay.
But it's a little strange when you're speaking, and it makes more sense sometimes to drop the "the."
Did you create that?
So originally, I think it was. I think our first gig was me and Mike were talking about it, and we did a 420 show at the Grotto, and it seems like it was the same night that Shooter Jennings and Lucas Nelson were playing like a block away at Lola's Trailer Park, and there was rumor that Lucas was going to show up. He did not show up, but there was rumor that was going to happen. But that was on 420, and I think at that time it was Keegan McInroe and Friends. Mm-hmm. And then I think we played that way like one other time, and then I was like, I don't really like this being Keegan McInroe, and it's like this is like our Willie tribute,
Yeah.
And I'd rather just have a name. So I don't know if it was me. I think it might have been that said the Willie Specials, but that was. It might have even been, Keegan and the Willies or something silly, and then. But anyway, I think by show 3 or 4, I think we'd gone to the Willie Specials.
Awesome.
I know. I love the name.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too. I remember. So like I'm such a Willie nerd, and then like, finding out that there was like a crew of Fort Worth guys doing the, doing that. I definitely like had a how am I not in this band?
Right.
And somehow worked my way in.
Well, we had Johnny Goodson was our drummer, and Johnny used to play with me in my old band Catfish Whiskey. Way back in the day, which was just a completely insane drunken rock and roll band of sorts, and we used to call him Johnny Savage, but we had a lot of crazy times together. And then when we start, and he's like he can do anything, of course, but country music is his thing, and so he was the drummer, and then. He over time, he had become less and less active in music. He got married. He had a child. He was working pretty, I guess full time with John Deere as a diesel mechanic. I think it's John Deere. And eventually he was just like, man, I'm sorry, but it's really hard for me. He's also in Dolly Shine, mm-hmm. I guess. And he would, I think they're doing like once a year or something. They'll do something now, and he'll do that. But he was just like, I really can't be there all the time. And so I believe it was Big Mike that was like, we got to hit up Grady Don.
Cool.
Yeah. So you were absolutely invited in. And I don't know how we may have been in the same places, but I don't think we'd really had a chance to get to know each other at all, or if we met at all.
I feel like the old Magnolia Motor Lounge, mm-hmm. I know that we had met there, or at least I'd seen you play or something when Raised Right Men was playing there all the time.
Yeah, right.
That place just had that, musicians hub feeling
for
about it.
For a long time.
Yeah. And so I loved that about it, just running into everybody there and being, when we would do our residencies there, usually they would line up with that was it Capitol Bar, the little outdoor thing next door?
Yeah, I believe
what that
so.
place was called.
Right to the south of it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Where, everybody, we would see like Adam Hood and Jason Eady would play, and then they would come and hang out after, or Jamie Lynn Wilson, and then eventually they'd be like, these guys are playing all old country stuff, and they, on set break, it'd be like, can we get up and do it? And I'm like, yes, you can. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
Daryl Dodd,
Yeah, the old Mags was great. The new one's cool, but that there was a time, it didn't matter if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it didn't matter what day it was. That place was always full of people. Mm-hmm. And it was like where the music lovers went and where the musicians went, it had a really golden moment for a while there.
And then just like, it was a hopping part of town too. So then you just have random people in there. We had a Ron White comedian was in there. I don't know if we're too early in the thing for me to mention testicles, but I did see Ron White's balls, weirdly enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not accidentally either. He presented them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like from like mooning you and with balls, or was like a frontal.
It was like he walked up to the tip jar and he put money in the tip jar, and then he sort of like pantomimed, like maybe putting it like teabagging the tip jar or something. And it was like, and we all kind of like, you're a funny guy. Yeah. And then it was like, you could just see the wheels turning in his head. And then he was wearing like shorts, like athletic shorts. And then he like reached into his pants and kind of set his balls on the steel player's monitor, which, like a skip in a record. Yeah. Even if you like hadn't been paying attention, you would have like heard the whole band take a blip of like, balls. And he was just dying laughing, of course. And all of us too were like looking at each other like, did that just happen?
Ron White in athletic shorts by itself is pretty funny.
And a Martin guitar t-shirt. Okay. Like the stamp, like, Nazareth.
So he was just hanging out.
He was just chilling.
And maybe for that reason, just so they could be easily brought out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was just talking with a totally different subject matter, but how accessible everything is in a pair of athletic shorts.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. Easy access.
Yeah, easy access to Ron White's balls. That's incredible.
You brought up the Grotto,
which
like had its own. I got so many experiences. Jenny Mack used to come and like jam with this
Jenny.
Bluegrass band I played with called Boxcar Bandits.
Oh yeah,
and she would come, and it was like I had a lot of like sense of eye opening to her because, she would just come and jam with us. And the first time I met her, we were like busking down at Fry Street. It was something we would do on weeknights occasionally.
Yeah,
find the big bar night that we weren't all working and go down there and busk. And our fiddle player brought her, and I'm like,
Austin.
Austin Smith.
Okay, yeah.
And beautiful girl, plays the accordion.
Yeah.
She didn't really sing much, but then like, a couple gigs later, we had like a residency at Dan's at one time, and she'd show up to that. She starts singing. I'm like, oh my God, she's fantastic. Like really, and then at the Grotto was where I saw her for the first time, like do her thing, and watched her like play the accordion and like move her pelvis into it, and I was like, she's the Jimi Hendrix of the accordion. Like she's absolutely fucking that thing, like, oh wow.
Yeah. She's a force of nature.
So just, I have so many, and then, it continues to this day, like see her play the keyboard,
right.
Or
with the sleep at the wheel for, she's she has one of the best ears and is absolutely one of the best musicians I've ever played with. I love, and she's also, I brought her on several recording projects, and there's been so many times where I'm just like, you'll get these unexpected things, and that's usually what I do with recording. Sometimes it's, like you're like, okay, I need this, but most of the time I'm very fortunate or blessed, however you want to think about it, in that I have people that I'm like, oh, this would be great for Jenny Mac to come in and like throw her thing. Not, I mean, it's like, you can have an accordion. That's cool. But like Jenny Mac coming in is like, it's more about who that is. And the very first time I barely met her, Matt Skates and me had known each other for a while. I don't know if you know Matt Skates, but he was playing with Jenny, and they were in Lubbock. And so they came and stayed at, they needed a place to stay that night. They stayed at my mom's house in Lubbock. And she got up at like 2 when everybody got in, made everybody lasagna and everything, you know.
That is so on brand for her.
Yeah, it is. And so anyway, but Jenny, I was about to record an album, and I brought her in. I had like 4 songs I wanted her to get in on. And there was a 5th song. I thought, well, if there's time, you know, maybe I'll throw this at her at the end that she hadn't heard yet. And so, of course, she just like bang, 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 4 songs down. Awesome, amazing, everything you'd want to hear her do, you know, she did. And I didn't even know her that well at the time. I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. So, hey, there's this 5th song. So as she's listening to it for the first time, she's kind of just doing this warm up where she's kind of going back and forth between this major and minor thing. And I was like, I mean, that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard. Just listening to her just like kind of run through some, you know, scales that she's just getting used to the song. I was like, hey, can you kind of do this exact idea, and that'll be the beginning of the song, and then like, and it'll kind of tail off, and that's when that first guitar lick will hit. And she's like, yeah. It's to this day one of my favorite things I have on any recording. Yeah. And then she, on the Never Seen a Ghost, when I recorded that, that was a single, and most of the band was in Italy. Michele Bomatomica, Michele Bertoldi in Verona, used to his band largely. We were going to work on an album together, and then the pandemic happened, so we only did the one song. But when I was thinking about the album, what'd be cool, I thought, oh, well, maybe we can get Jenny in here. And I was working on a few other things kind of simultaneously with that. So I brought her in on several things, and I was like, well, let's get you in on this. So she does that, and she's like, all of a sudden, I don't know if it was an idea or if she just started doing it, but there was like this operatic wailing that started, and I was just like, oh, I never expected it out of nowhere, but was like exactly perfect. And so yeah, I love Jenny, man. She's amazing.
Yeah, she can yodel too,
and she can. Yeah, I would be shocked if there's something Jenny can't do.
Yeah, no doubt.
That would be news to me.
No doubt.
Maybe kill like a small black bear with her hands or something. Like that would be maybe something that'd be like out of her realm of, you know, force of nature stuff. But otherwise,
a small one, just
like mid-size. A small one she could probably handle, but a mid-size one and up would probably be too much. She could probably charm it. It would stop trying to fight. You know, like, you know what? You're right. I'll just lay down and die.
Kill me, Jenny.
Kill me, Jenny. Yeah.
How did Neon John come about?
So Neon John, which is the latest album, which you were so kind to lend your talent and time to.
Blessed to.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. So that is, I had, you know how it is. Well, you're a married man with children, but I'm sure there was a time when you weren't, and you're on the road, and you have romantic experiences, you know. And my romantic experiences almost always tend towards, not always, but very often tend towards some sort of like really dramatic tilting, you know, where it's like, oh man, this seems like it's going to be really great. And then all of a sudden, in some sort of fantastic fashion, it blows up and like, wow, didn't see that coming, you know? And even in the moment, you're almost amused, as heartbreaking as it is. You're almost like, this is actually pretty amazing. Like, who does this happen to? So I've had a lot of these kind of situations, and I always find like, you know, the things that I enjoy more over time are the heartbreak songs that I write anyway, that don't take themselves overly seriously, that kind of, you know, like there's a little wink and smile, like, this is how it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had written several of these sorts of songs, these kind of romantic misadventure songs. And, and I've collected, you know, over the years, all these different stories, and they'd ended up in some of the other albums and stuff. But then I was in Amsterdam, on one of my tours in Europe, and I was very sober, of course, making my way around the red light district in Amsterdam, you know, just taking it in at night. You know, it's a nice night walk there next to the canals and all the neon lights and everything. And for whatever reason, this particular night, I kept hearing around me, what's the cost? What's the price? What's the cost? And it's not like, I don't always, because I love Amsterdam. I spent a lot of time there. And usually if you're walking down from the train station, there's the red light districts, kind of, if your back's to the train station, kind of off to the left there. And I would often make my way through there because I love a seedy environment, I have to admit. It makes me, I don't know, scratches some sort of itch, just to walk through and see it. And so that's what I was doing. But this particular night, they kept chirping all around me. What's the cost? What's the price? And so I was kind of laughing to myself anyway. And so I stumbled out of the red light district, and I was standing there at the canal. And then the lines, the first opening lines of the song came to me: "Looking for love in all the wrong windows." And of course, I was singing it to the melody of "Looking for love" and all, Of
course.
And then so that's how it started. And then I ended up that's kind of funny. And then I wrote a few more lines. His feet hit the brick with a click as the canal glowed neon red. And so that's basically what I had. And I recorded that into my phone, just me singing the melody, which is how I'll often do if something comes to me, like an idea. I'll just make a voice memo note about it. And so then I got back to Texas and I wrote that song. And then, so I'd kind of written some albums, and some of the previous albums the material is a little heavier. The subject matter is a little more serious, or, the Dusty Passports and Empty Beds was my last one before this. And that was a kind of pandemic therapy album. Agnes is pretty heavy in some places. The one before that, of course, the one before that was the Protest album. So I was kind of ready for like a little bit of a lighthearted thing, and I'd been blessed with all these romantic misadventures. So I thought I'd been thinking for a couple of years, because I'd had Neon John for several years. I think I probably wrote it in 2019 or so, 2020, maybe 19. And so I knew I wanted it. And I knew I wanted it to be the title track, and I knew I wanted the album to kind of spring from it. And so it was kind of just there. And so interestingly, I was about to play a song, I think it was Neon John, at the Greenwood Saloon in Bluffdale. And there was this couple I had met in Turkey, Texas, and Mike and Amy. And they had... I'd sat after the Turkey, Texas has the Hotel Turkey, and you bring your own liquor, and they brought a bottle of whiskey. And so after my show that night, that when we first met, we sat and drank whiskey together, and then we kept in touch. And so they came and saw me in Bluffdale, and they had some friends drive a couple hours, and they live in Abilene. So they'd made a, drive, and they had friends made a drive. Anyway, at one point I say, "Hey, after this, I'm going to play this song now. And whenever I get the money together, this will be on the next album, And so fast forward a few months later, they come see me in Abilene, and they invite me to stay at their place that night. And I was on my way out to far West Texas afterwards. And so I was like, well, I could probably just get up early and not have to, worry about driving part of the way tonight. So I stayed with them, and we were sitting around their table, and they started asking me a bunch of questions. And eventually he just kind of was like, well, the reason I'm asking all this is I'd like to finance, or at least partially finance the next record. Because I heard you say that, and I said, oh man, that would be incredible. But I can't let you do that, And I said, what if you just kind of loan me the money, and then I'll give it back to you? And he goes, well, as long as you put, special thanks to Mike and Amy or something, I'll be happy. And I was like, deal. So we talked about it. I kind of estimated, reasonably what I thought would make the album, and I estimated a little under what it actually ended up costing, but it was pretty close. And they financed that part of the record. And so I knew also, I felt like the album would play well. I wanted it to kind of have a country, kind of funky country kind of feel to it, which is, you and I had started playing with the Willie Specials, I guess in 2023, 2022.
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so, when you start, I've been talking to Ben Hussey, who plays with Shelby Stone now, but at bass, but he was in Six Market Boulevard, and he engineers out of the Melody Mountain studio there, where Larry Joe Taylor's festival happens and all that. And me and him had talked about for years maybe working together. And so as I started trying to figure out what the team would look like, I thought, well, man, this seems like something that'd be right up Ben's alley. And I sent him the stuff. He was really excited about it. And so when we started putting the musicians together, you start kind of like everybody was going to have to go out to Stephenville. Mm-hmm. And so, everybody obviously it's so wonderful to know so many great musicians, but everybody's in 100 different projects and you never know who you can and can't get. So you just start kind of like, okay, these are the people I'd like to have. And you were of course on the, we'd been playing and I thought, man, this will be right up Grady Don's alley. So, that was kind of how you got into that as well. And then Morris Holdall and Aiden Bubeck, had been with me on Agnes and on the Agnes record. And man, Morris's guitar playing and the stuff he does on Agnes, like every time I listen to it, I fall more in love. He's such a thoughtful, mm-hmm. like the more you listen to it, you're just like, man, that really was the perfect thing right there. Yeah. I really love the way he plays. And so, of course, Gary Grammer, I met him recording Uncouth Pilgrims. He lived near Ben Napier, who engineered those sessions. And when we started, we were at Ben's house back in 2014 or 15, whatever it was. And there was a song that this needs a little something. He goes, well, Gary Grammer lives close to here. You know Gary? And I was like, I've heard his name, but I don't really know him. He goes, you get him like a 6 or 12 pack of Coors Original and he'll come over here and, I was just like done. Yeah. So then that was how the whole session went. It was like, man, this needs a little something. Hey, Gary, could you come back over here?
Yeah. We got beer.
So, yeah. So I had, people that I knew I wanted involved and then it just worked out where we were all able to get together and we knocked it out and we knocked out the meat and bones in 2 days. Yeah. There in the studio.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. So I was really thankful that y'all were all able to come out and do that. That was a blast. But yeah, that was the longest answer possible. But that's how Neon John. That's how Neon John came to be.
I love it, and the record turned out great.
Thanks, man.
And I like working that way. I think it was before we turned the microphones on, but we were talking about doing the Willie specials and how that requires a bit of when you're doing someone else's repertoire. There's a bit of tightness needed and a little bit of like understanding of arrangement, right? That's different than creating something together in a studio.
For sure.
Because you have an idea, and I think everybody who's done enough of that feels comfortable with, I listened to these tunes and I may have written a chart or something, but I'm going to keep an open mind.
Right.
Because what I want when I record, I like to work fast. I don't have much time I'd rather leave a mistake in on the previous take that had some magic,
right,
than to play another take, or erase the magic and have it be perfect.
Right.
So
exactly.
To me, I'm always chasing that and I'm always going for, let's keep that one. I know. And usually, and I feel great about it if it's me that did the fuck up, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
There's things I've worked on to this day where it's like in the last bar of a song, you hear good old Grady Don shit the bed. And then I'm like, dude, that was it. That was the track, and like,
right.
little flubbed thing here at the end. If you don't like that, sorry.
Well, and I mean, I think there's not a way to do it, of course, but we didn't have, other than y'all getting some demos from me, there wasn't really pre-production.
No.
And when you know that the musicians you're working with are really strong, then you bring everybody together and you're like, okay, this is the sort of the blueprint. Now where does it go? And I think there's absolutely, like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking to capture that magic, that,
mm-hmm.
Like whatever it is, that does sometimes just come from y'all figuring out together. I think there's a lot to be said for being really diligent about your pre-production work and stuff like that. in this case, I just got back from the UK. I had a brand new song I brought from the UK, the Post Wedding Weekend Blues song, which I didn't even have a decided version. I had a one way or another way. And who else was really great in that session was Chris Watson, who played keys on it. And he had so many great ideas where maybe we'd be a little stuck on something like, and he'd be like, what about this? And it's like, that's exactly what we need to do,
Strong opinions.
So, right. When you're working with great people, I always try, no matter who I'm working with, really, I always try there's a fine line between exploring ideas and being open to things and being efficient. And obviously when you're on the clock, and you're trying to knock out 4 songs a day, which we recorded, drums, bass, lead guitar, keys, and my rhythm guitar and vocal was mostly, my vocal was scratch, but we, most of the electric stuff, we kept of electric guitar stuff. The acoustic stuff we re-recorded on some of that stuff, maybe all the acoustic parts, but, and then we overdubbed some other, Gary overdubbed and Presley Hale came in and overdubbed. But there are times where I have a thing in my mind and then somebody suggests something and I'm like, I don't, but let's try it out. And then you hear it and you're like, actually, yeah, that's exactly what needed to happen there, So I always try to be super open towards that. And you're right. When you're playing with, something that, again, it's not like I need a drummer, I need a bass player, I need a guitar player. It's like, I want Aiden, Morris, and Grady Don. Then it's like, it would be dumb of me to be like, guys that I brought in because you're awesome and you're you, do this thing exactly like I have it in my head. That wouldn't make any sense at all. And to me, that's where being able to have these people that you just appreciate as people, but as musicians, like there's so much depth there of things they're bringing to the table. Like, you want to get out of the way of that. It's like, here's what where I'm kind of at now. And then we obviously had moments where it was like, okay, I'm kind of, what do you think about this versus this or this versus this? And let me hear what that sounds like. That's what I love about recording. I love making an album. I love the process.
I do too. And it's fun. The sharing of ideas is great, but I'm also just as comfortable, doing what anybody says, and that's a part of being open too. There was something on I won't forget it forever probably, and not in a bad way, but on Blackout, like it had this Stonesy thing, and I was like, there's something in some of the Stones records where I think Charlie Watts will sort of delay the beat coming in a little bit, and it's like where it's still kind of like, it's almost like you think you're rocking, and it's just like a guitar and a bass chugging along, and then the beat kicks in, or maybe he's like playing tambourine, and then like the beat kicks in maybe on the second verse, and it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And so I had that idea for that tune, and then maybe we did a take like that, or maybe we were just warming up, and I heard it, like, I don't think it was intentional, but I just heard Chris from the control room go, that's a terrible idea. And I was like, and we might have, like, I feel like we might have, like, tape might have been rolling. We're like about to count it in. And I was like, whoa, Chris, is that you? And he's like, yeah. I was like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, it just fucking rock. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, it was just, you're overthinking it, dummy. And I was like, okay, all right. And then we did, and it was like, one or two takes, and just, it's such a fun thing for someone just to be like, no, dummy, cut that shit out.
Well, and I kind of like, I feel like I'm usually, and it's not unintentional. I am usually the musically weakest link.
Well, that's smart
of any project that
that's smart. I am too.
I am too. I songwriting, storytelling, melody, all that stuff comes really naturally to me, writing wise.
Remembering those words.
Yeah, remembering the words and stuff like that. But the musical theory and a lot of the, like, I'll not be, I'm like, I remember reading about James Brown would have this huge band, and then somebody would be like, a bit late or a bit off, and he would point that person out and be like, you know, that is not me. Like in the moment I'm focusing on my thing. You know, it's only when I listen back, and oftentimes multiple times, before I'm really listening to like, oh, that little intricate thing that you did there was so great, you know. But in the moment, I'm in my own. I'm a little bit. I'll hear it if it's bad, you know. But like as far as, you know, like Chris is brilliant.
Oh yeah,
you know, and so I know that like, you know, or Aiden or you know, all these people I get to play with. If there's something that's said to me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to that because I'm the weakest link here.
Same.
And, you know, whatever. Now, if it's a creative thing, you know, sometimes it's like, it's taste and preference, you know? And, so again, I think there's lines, like fine lines between these things, but yeah, that's an important thing too, is to be like, not to be thin skinned about it, because you never know, like we're all trying to like find, you know, catch the fireflies or whatever in the jar, you know? And it's like, so you're throwing what you can out there or whatever. And some of it doesn't work, you know? Yeah. And some of it, you know, I remember, oh my God, one of the worst things ever was I had this song I loved this song. And, it was on my album, 1,000 Dreams. And it's a song called, Time Goes By. And, we got done playing it and I was like, wow, that's really cool, man. And then somebody's like, that sounds just like Santeria by Sublime. And I was like, what? And then he played it back. I was like, fuck. Oh. It does sound exactly like that, you know? And so I just redid it all together, you know? Or She's a Fighter, which is on the Neon John album. I had tried to record, well, we did record it, and it's a beautiful version. Actually, it turned out really great, but it never got released on an EP that was going to be done. But we were recording that mid-March of 2020 when everything, you know, the bottom fell out of everything. But every time I started playing it, the band kind of wanted to go into this thing that felt like Neon Moon. When the sun goes down, and I was like, this is not Neon Moon. Stop it. You know, like stop it. So sometimes you'll have something in your head and you don't even realize it's like, oh, that's this. And you're like, oh shit, that is that. Yeah. You know, and sometimes you have enough, you know, you're kind of outside yourself enough to be like, okay, guys, this could be this. So let's make sure we steer it in another direction, you know? But no, that was such a fun session. And the only thing about that session I wish I would have done differently, the only thing, we recorded another song that didn't make the album. We recorded Robert Johnson's Dust My Broom. And it was kind of like we had some extra time. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Cause I've been playing that song for years. And I thought, well, it's also public domain. Like I don't have to, you know, pay anybody extra. I don't have to worry about Henry Fox or whatever his name is. And Harry Fox, I think it is, maybe anyway. So we did that and it was cool. But it felt like it was outside of the album. It didn't feel like it fit with the album. And it didn't feel like we really, like we just were like, let's just do 3 takes or 4, whatever we did, and just see if something happens. And I re-recorded the vocal like 3 or 4 times, trying to get it where it felt like it was supposed to be there. Ultimately, I didn't. But what we had originally talked about doing, if we had time, was Simple Twist of Fate. And we were just talking before we started recording here about like space. And when you have great players, how nice it is to play a song with so much space. And I think if and when Neon John's sequel comes out, which will be called And Other Misadventures in Romance, I think I'll want to do Simple Twist of Fate.
It would fit the theme better.
So well. Yeah. It would have fit so well on Neon John. I remember the talk
about that.
And I love that song so much. And I think I guess in my mind, before we started recording, Neon John was going to be a little heavier. It was going to be a little heavier of an album. And I knew I wanted to play more electric on it. And then when we started recording the songs, I was like, actually, there are heavy places, Chago's Blue Lament, of course, but overall it's not so heavy. So I think that's why I made that decision kind of last minute. I was like, oh, this is brilliant. Let's do Dust My Broom with all these badass musicians. We're going to kill it. And I mean, like, a thing by itself, it's fine. It's not like, like I was listening to, I don't know, a dozen different versions of Dust My Broom after we did our thing and just seeing like, what have other people done with it,
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like after listening to that, I was like, okay, the thing that we did and that we settled on is cool, but it didn't feel like it was part of the album, which I feel like Neon John or Simple Twist of Fate would have been like perfect.
Yeah.
So that's my one thing I look back and I think, I could have done that one. I shouldn't have second guessed myself.
When you're writing these things, I feel like in a lot of those, and like there's real obvious ones like the Chago's, is it Blue Lament or Blues Lament?
Chago's Blue Lament.
Okay.
Number 1. Yeah.
Okay. Like, and then just digging into the rest of your catalog that I had to learn for the record.
Forced him to.
Yeah, gladly.
Wasn't going to listen to this shit.
But maybe even in the Dead tunes we did that night, like, is there like toward like flawed characters that's easier to write about or easier to sing about? Like because to me, you seem very, like, you seem to be kind of living like a somewhat of an ideal existence for a songwriter. Like you're even you're being like you're talk about like romance and like heartbreak. It has a very sort of light touch to it of well, I mean, that's the way it goes. I sat at this table and was dealt these cards and I knew the stakes and like, so I wonder how that, because like face to face, you do not seem to beat down by the world. And you seem to have a generally like light and nice disposition. And even maybe after a gig, you're like, oh man, I was having a rough time. Well, you did not let on. No one, from someone who was right there with you, never felt like, oh man, Keegan's struggling. Yeah, I not noticed. Good. Yeah, I mean, so like, is it, and like, are those things related? Is it good to like externalize these things and like and not have to wear them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am sort of drawn, as you said, like the flawed character. I mean, because we're all flawed characters, of course, and I think there's more authenticity in maybe going that direction than trying to idealize something or I guess a long time ago, I kind of accepted that the world is not really ever going to look like I'd like it to, and I consider myself pretty independent politically and in a lot of different ways. And so, but I'm also, I can, it's not difficult for me to get into somebody else's or to try to imagine myself into someone else's situation to figure out why they might come to the things they've come to. Mm-hmm. I try to be careful of sweeping generalizations about people. And I, even when something's really confusing to me, why somebody would think that, I sit there and I try to go backwards, like, okay, how could this happen? And, I try to give people benefit of the doubt. I try to give myself benefit of the doubt in situations. So I think there's probably, some of that, just like that empathetic, like, life is hard, mm-hmm. really, really hard. Even when it's really good, there's no such thing as continual good, mm-hmm. We're going to die. That's going to happen. Hopefully when we're old and laying in bed surrounded by people we love, and in between being here kicking and screaming and then dying, there's all this life stuff. And so, like there's something, some saying about like, be nice to people because you never know what they're going through, or everybody's carrying a weight, or everybody's got this. And I think that's true, So I try to be, have that sort of approach to how I deal with people. Obviously it's, there's times where it doesn't work out as well, or, somebody punches you in the face, you're going to feel that. And then there's going to be the immediate reaction you want to do, but then you can also take a breath and decide how you're going to respond. Mm-hmm. And like with the like friends, an example would be like the instance with the woman who inspired She's a Fighter and Wild and Free. Mm-hmm. There's 2 other songs she's inspired, and then and a 1/3 of another song. And that situation backfired and just exploded in the most insane manner. But even when it was happening, and even though I was really kind of like just blindsided by all that went down with that, but I knew it was a good story. And I knew it was like, this is funny. It's actually really, really funny. Mm-hmm. It hurts. It sucks. But like, that's kind of the difference between tragedy and comedy is like time. It's a lot of times, right? Yeah. And so it's like, that's kind of, trying not to take yourself overly seriously in certain things. And just, I think also part of it is just how things have gone. I think I'm kind of drawn romantically to things that I probably subconsciously know are going to fail in a way, because it's like, there's going to be good song fodder here. Yeah. And there's no pressure. Like, the crazier somebody is, the less pressure there is for them to have any expectation of me. Right. And so there's like a freeness of like, okay,
you can keep being you.
Yeah, I can keep being me.
You have this like freewheeling troubadour persona that you've crafted pretty nicely since you've been doing this. And so like the perfect person, that's not interesting to find them.
What would happen then? What would I do? Yeah. Yeah. It's like, there has to be some sort of like potential for chaos or something, I think. And funny enough, like, there's the line in Wild and Free that's like, it basically speaks to the idea that like, there have been times when somebody has really wanted to like pursue something long, and then I wasn't interested in that. Mm-hmm. But anytime that I'm interested in that, it's just blows up in some sort of spectacular fashion. And so there's a weird line there as well, where there's part of me that's like, oh, this would be really nice. And I think that's been heavier since the pandemic, when it was like, everybody was just sitting around. You're like, man, the only woman I've seen in 6 months is my mom and my niece. Mm-hmm. It would be nice to have a partner right now. Yeah. And of course that didn't go well for everybody, but a lot of people, Oh yeah.
And other people were like, man, I'd rather be alone
right now. Right. Exactly. And so, I think there's I also appreciate the kind of the stoic, thing, where, there are things that are the way they are, and it doesn't do a lot of good to bitch and moan about it, mm-hmm. and to let it wreck your whatever. When I was in college, I have a degree in religion, I have a degree in philosophy. I got from TCU there, and I was, one semester I took like Buddhism, existentialism, and something else. And, but there was a particular thing I read, a thought experiment, or at least I don't think he intended as an actual metaphysics, but like Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, like proto-existentialist, has this thing called the greatest weight or eternal recurrence, where he speaks about, like, imagine one night into your heart of hearts, your loneliest of lonelies, this demon creeps in through your window and he says, you speck of dust, this life as you've lived it, you're damned to repeat eternally. Mm-hmm. And, from the spider web on the wall there to your decision to eat Fruit Loops this morning, to the color of the socks you're wearing now, like every little moment of your life, you have to repeat eternally. And he says, would you not throw yourself on the ground, gnash your teeth and wail, no, no, no? Or would you say, thank you, you are a god, sir? And he said, if you took this seriously, it would sit on your shoulders like the greatest weight. And well, as a 19, 20-year-old kid or whatever I was when I encountered that, that Nietzsche's demon has never left me, and so it was like, how can I get the most, because I think Nietzsche's point for me anyway, what I took from it was, oh, okay, well, if I'm not living that life, what am I doing? If it's because, couple that with like existential ideas of like Sartre, that, we are the sum of our choices, that we create our realities through our choices and things like this. And so I think there's a very conscious effort on my part, or at least I try to be, that I'm creating interesting situations for myself, that I'm in, that I, whether it be traveler, whether it be whatever, but that I do have a choice. There's so many things we don't have a choice in. I could leave here today and somebody could sideswipe me and this is the last interview I do.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we do have control over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to embrace that, and I try to keep it interesting. I'm drawn to writers like Hunter S. Thompson. Mark Twain's probably my favorite. I love his travel writing more than his novels. The Innocents Abroad and Roughing It is hilarious. But this sort of like sort of what Thompson would do, and really Mark Twain was doing as well, like this kind of sort of gonzo journalism where you're in the story, and so the story needs to be interesting, right?
Right.
And so I think there is a lot of that I've sort of in many ways consciously, but it's at some point I think it just starts to kind of feed itself a little bit as well, that this is just kind of what it looks like now. And so yeah, I have a deeply sympathetic ear towards the flawed, because I certainly understand myself in those terms, and I think it's cathartic to share, your pain, your miseries and things like that, and then when somebody else encounters that, then it's cathartic for them to experience it through you.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be some kind of therapy built in there to be able to laugh at it or write a song about it, and you're very open, I think, about it too. Rather, like we're doing the show, you will, you create a context for it. There's like things in there where I'm like, man, I would die if I had to like explain this song in front of my mother, like,
yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
and like whatever, I feel comfortable talking most things about her, and if whatever, I wouldn't hide from it if it came up, but it's still like, to elect.
Yeah. Well, I definitely don't look at my mother when I'm telling some of these stories.
Cool.
Yeah.
Roxanne's
she's cool.
Yeah. Like she can take it.
Yeah. She can take it. Yeah. But exactly. It's just like, oh, Mom, don't look at me, or like when they listen to this album or whatever, I'm just like, oh God, but it's, I mean, the good thing, my mother's always just encouraged authenticity. Like, if you're happy, I'm happy for you,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and is an artistic spirit herself. So she gets it. And I'm sure that, there are stories that she would not want to hear about and I would not tell her about, but,
Mm-hmm.
When it's there in a song and it's there on the album, I mean, you've the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or created art about it.
Yeah.
Might as well talk about it.
Right. Exactly.
Was she always that way with you? Like going back when you first getting into this, was there like kind of blind encouragement for it?
Yeah. Football was my life growing up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I loved, I mean, there was a time in my early childhood and like, things where I was like, that's what I want to do. And then, and actually we have a common love for the Grateful Dead. And you and I.
Yes, we do.
And so growing up, I was mostly listening to like whatever was coming out of popular country at the time,
Mm-hmm.
So 80s, 90s, Nashville country. So I liked it. I would sing along to it, but it didn't move me in a way. It was like, oh, I want to get a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But in ninth grade, we would go over to my buddy Blaine's house, my best buddy growing up, and his brother, who's also named Tyson. My brother's named Tyson. His brother's named Tyson. But he was an older brother, and he had gotten into the Grateful Dead through this friend of his named Chris Bonner. And so then we would go over to my buddy Blaine's house, and Blaine would, this was before football games in 9th grade, and he would cook this Italian thing for us, and then we would all eat, and then I would go back in his room, and I would listen to the American Beauty album on repeat and just kind of relax. And it was during that time that I was like, I think I want to get a guitar and learn how to play. And so I got a guitar at 17, and my mom bought me the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been writing poetry, and my little joke is always, like I turned bad poetry into bad songs almost immediately once I got my guitar, And again, the musical part of it didn't come naturally to me at all. I'd look at a chart and I'd be like, it says D, G, and C, but I am not getting this sound out of, like I do not get this. And so it was a bit of a chore. And I did have a few lessons here and there over the years, but she was always super supportive. It was kind of always understood growing up that like you go to high school, you graduate, you go to college for 4 years, and then whatever. So that was kind of what I was going to do. Now, if I could go, if I were to have a child with some crazy person who, I would probably encourage my child to take a year or two.
That's everyone's cue to laugh.
Yeah. Okay. But I would probably encourage them to take a year or two, because I feel like by the time I got out of college, I was kind of ready to go to college.
Yeah.
But she was always just super supportive. And when I started turning those poems into songs, my mom and my grandmother both said to me on different occasions, like, "Oh, that's such a cool song. Who are you going to get to sing it?" I was like, "Well, I just sang it for you. What are you talking about?" And
that's encouragement.
Yeah, it's encouragement right there. But as far as it goes, there wasn't. It was always just like, she wanted us to be happy and wanted us to do what we loved, and there was never like, well, what are you going to do with your life? Well, what do you? I mean, I've never once felt that pressure from my mom.
Yeah.
There was never any of that. There was always encouragement.
What did you want to do before you ruined your life and got a guitar?
Right. I had no idea, because I wanted to be a football player.
Yeah.
I'm a little undersized, but there are linebackers in the NFL who were 5'9", 5'10", Zach Thomas, London Fletcher, I think at least 2.
Historically 2.
Historically 2. But Zach Thomas went to Texas Tech. So I grew up in Lubbock. So that was a good example of what it could be.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a very big guy when he got to Tech. They he got bulked up. So I thought, there may be a thing, but I got so burnt out my senior year of high school. I thought, I'm done. And it was about my 3rd or 4th year at TCU before I got it out of my head that I might walk on. I kept thinking, maybe I'll walk on.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll walk on.
Mm-hmm.
But
let a dream go, man.
I had to let the dream go. I had to let the dream go. But my rough plan was, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I got into college, and the only thing I knew was that I did not want to wear a monkey suit and be like 9 to 5 every day. I knew that was not for me.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I knew. And somehow I was a pre-business major. Yeah. So I don't know how that works, but I had taken several classes that were dual credit. They worked for high school and they worked for my, a lot of the, what do they call them? Just your 101s I'd already kind of knocked out through high school.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, I was able to kind of explore a little bit.
Philosophy?
Yeah, philosophy. Did a philosophy 1 class, and I took a world religions class. And that was September 2001, August, September 2001, when I started my world religions class. And then, of course, 9/11 happens. And we were going to go in order of like oldest to newest religion, the 5 major so-called major religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Ism.
Yeah.
Isn't it the most?
And he ended up saying, you know what, because of the things that happened, we're going to start with Islam. And then he changed the curriculum and we started. But anyway, it was such a fascinating class, and I loved it so much. But what are you going to do with that? I knew I didn't want to be a preacher, and I didn't want to be in the ministry. And then I love philosophy.
You've already studied too many religions to be a preacher, by the way.
And I knew I didn't want to be, like, what can you do with a philosophy degree? But I thought, okay, if I graduate from college and I have no idea what I'm going to do, I'm going to move to Spain and teach English as a second language. I'm going to get my Spanish down, and if I enjoy teaching, then I could see myself in this role. Maybe I'll go back and get my doctorate and be a professor of philosophy or something like that. That was kind of the rough, if all else fails, what am I going to do? And so I didn't think about music as a possibility. I'd started playing probably my freshman or sophomore year. I played for the first time in a bar, and I had a fake ID. So that's from Des Moines, Iowa. That's not true. Not from Des Moines. It is true that I had the fake ID, though.
Okay, yeah. Like, which part?
The Des Moines part's fake. I've driven through Des Moines. I was like, oh, this is where my ID's from.
Yeah.
And but anyway, so I played in this bar for $50 and all the whiskey I could drink, called Schooners, right across the street from campus. And in the beginning, it was just like, how drunk can we get before we get to the bar to play music? There was no idea that it would be anything other, like, it was a party, and that was all. There was this beautiful woman one time came up to me, and I thought, my God, this woman here is like, a goddess. And she starts talking to me, and I just can't believe it. And I'm just like, what is she talking to me for? And I was like, I'm Keegan.
What is she saying?
And she goes, Keegan, we've done this 3 times now. And I was like, oh, maybe I should not party so hard. So that was one of the first wake-up calls. And I wrote a song about her way back when called Miss Harper. And that was kind of
so you'd remember her name,
Elia.
And
yeah. It was a great name too. Like, how do you not remember this?
Yeah.
And I mean, she was just like, very much. If I don't know that I have a particular type, but if I do, it was that was pretty close to it. And anyway, but it wasn't really until I studied the first semester in London, and there was an open mic night. I'd started playing in Catfish Whiskey. Had started about 2003 or so. So I've been playing Catfish Whiskey for a year or two. But again, it was just like, drunken hijinks. It was when people tell me they see Catfish Whiskey, I always apologize first. I'm like, I know there were good moments, but there was a lot of sloppiness. It wasn't a musical endeavor. It was a party. Is the way that we looked at it. I never thought about it as a living, or we were barely making any money, whatever. But then I went to London, and there was this buddy of mine that I met named Andy Balkwell, who was running an open mic night that I started playing at. And there were people from all over the world that would come. Our student housing was near there, so a lot of the students would come. There were a bunch of Italians on my floor. They would all come, and a bunch of people from all over were there. And there were people that had no reason. These weren't my friends from back home who, like, oh, you're great, blah, blah, let's get drunk. It was like these people had no reason to be nice to me, and there was enthusiasm and general interest and genuine appreciation. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this. And that's when I started to actually, maybe I don't get drunk until I get to the bar. Like that was when things kind of turned a little bit for me in the way that I thought about it. And like, maybe this is possible. So when I graduated, I was in Catfish Whiskey, and we were, at that point, we were taking ourselves a little more seriously. We started working on that album, and, or started thinking about working on an album. And, but we'd started, cleaning things up a little bit, and just looking at it more as like, maybe there's something here versus this is just a way to let off steam on a weekend, or whatever. So when I graduated, I was in the band, and I thought, well, there's windows for these things. So I guess I'll see what happens with the band. And I didn't go to Spain, and my Spanish is still horrible.
Yeah.
But that was my backup
dream.
plan. Yeah. My backup plan was to be a professor. To
That's
profess.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. Still, yeah, it's related.
Yeah.
Like, still, I still think of like sports as it's like kind of where war and entertainment collide.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah.
A big sports fan. That's,
yeah,
I love it. And that's somewhere I think that's like just the Olympics just passed, and that sort of been on my mind too, of like, a lot of this stuff was a little bit of an organized war thing. Like, how about instead of throwing javelins at each other, we just like line up and you see
who can throw the farthest.
Yeah. Like you win. I'll give you a little medal for it.
Yeah. I don't need to be in the front of it.
Yeah. So, and then, I think teaching has is related to kind of get up, stand up in front of some people. And, it takes a lot of, I think music is great because there's so much gray area, and the things we were talking about, or even when you're talking about philosophy, even in words, in plain black and white, there's interpretation.
Right.
Music allows this extra level.
Yeah.
And that's why, people like attach emotions to it, or attach, a period of time to it.
Right.
I've been kind of going back and listening to some stuff that I was just so heavily into at that same time in my life that we're talking about, in my late teens, early 20s. And it brings back nostalgia. And, there's, I love listening to bootlegs. And I love finding shows I was at and listening, and the memories that it evokes, or even listening to a recording. And I'll text an old friend, "Hey man, do you remember we used to listen to this?" So many things I hear it so differently now.
Yeah.
But also still get transported to that place. When in all that time did you find to chase widespread panic around the country?
Oh.
You told me about this.
Yeah.
Did you do that for a summer?
Well, there was several times I did it. So basically, me and my buddy Blaine, who I mentioned earlier, who introduced me through his brother to the Dead, we went after, I guess it was the summer before we both left for college.
Okay. Good time to do it.
Yeah. And we went and saw Widespread in Dallas, and then they played the next night down in Houston at the Woodlands, the Cynthia whatever Pavilion or whatever. Yeah.
Great music venue.
Cool venue. So I was not in, I had not begun my psychedelic experiences at that point. I was, pretty much like a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of marijuana maybe, but I wasn't involved in the psychedelics or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not really understood the pull of Widespread Panic through their albums, through what I'd heard online, or not online, but through what I'd got from the record store, whatever. I liked it, but I hadn't, it wasn't like the Grateful Dead, just like I listened to American Beauty and I was like, what is this? I didn't have that moment with Widespread Panic through their albums. So we went to the first show in Dallas and I was like, okay, that was cool, but it wasn't like, I'm going to follow these guys around. But then we went down the next night to the Woodlands and it started raining and I'm standing in the grass and my buddy's like, he's taking, I don't know what he's on exactly, but he's doing this thing I call like the wounded penguin dance, where he has his arms kicked back and his legs are kicked up and he's just like back and forth in front of me. And we're passing a joint back and forth and it's raining and they're playing And It Stoned Me by Van Morrison. And I got it. And I was just like, oh, and that was when I fell in love with JB, John Bell's his voice and just the whole thing, Michael Hauser was still alive. And so then I just started catching them whenever I could. I went to Bonnaroo first year, went to Bonnaroo second year. I had like this crazy experience the second year. I had started enjoying some fungal, appreciation there. But what I read On the Road by Kerouac and I thought, man, I got to get on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much to see. And the thing that he does so brilliantly, and any good artist does, kind of what you were talking about to a certain extent, he transports you he makes you feel what it's like to be in that situation. You're there. You're like, oh my God, you're in Denver. You're in you're all of a sudden you're going here and you're going there. And I thought, I need experiences like this. And how? I have no money, which didn't stop them, but it stopped me. I was like, how am I going to do that? Oh, I have an idea. So there's a thing that you know about, and probably most people that would listen to this would know about, called Shakedown Street, that happens at the live shows, where like it started, of course, with the Grateful Dead, but they would, all these people that would follow them around would set up a market essentially outside the concert, and there would be people selling their vegan tacos, and there'd be people selling their tie-dye shirts, and there'd be people selling their shiny rocks, and there'd be people selling their crystals, and people doing palm readings, and people selling mushrooms, and people selling marijuana, whatever they're selling. But that's how they're getting around, going around. And I was like, oh, okay. So I came up with the idea for a t-shirt. There's a song of Widespread Panic's called Porch Song. And there's a line in the song that says, a bowl for the cat, a bowl for the dog, a bowl for me. So I thought, what if we have a t-shirt where there's a man, it's not JB, but it looks like him. And he's sitting in a chair, and on the table next to him is a bowl smoking. And then there's a cat and a dog, and they each have a bowl in front of them. And so my cousin, who's an artist, I hit him up about it, and he designed this really cool shirt based on that. And so I went around the country selling this bootleg t-shirt. I had half of them confiscated from me at Red Rocks, because I definitely went to a person who was working for Widespread Panic, and they had their badge hidden. And I made the mistake of saying like something like, I got a Panic t-shirt here, or something like that, which it didn't say Widespread Panic on it.
Yep.
It didn't have
Use
anything
the wrong
in quotes,
words to the wrong
but I said
person.
the wrong word to the wrong person. And he's like, and he pulled out his lanyard, and he's like, I'm going to be taking these shirts. And I was like, oh, come on, man. It's like such a cool shirt. And he's like, I'm taking these shirts. So
give one to JB.
Give one to JB. Make sure they see it,
Yeah.
And anyway, he thought he was getting all of them, but I had half of them in my car, and my cousin was with me at the time. And so we went from Red Rocks, and we got off tour with Panic at that point, and we went up to Milwaukee for Summerfest, and Willie Nelson was playing with the Dead. And then we went down and saw him in St. Louis together. And then we went down and saw him at Willie's Picnic in Austin. They played at Austin that year.
I was there.
Oh, were you there?
Yeah.
How annoying was it to be there, and the Dead are playing, and people are going, Pat fucking Green, Pat fucking Green. Yeah. I wanted to just like punch people. I was like, shut up. This is the fucking Dead here.
Yeah.
And Willie's up there playing Ripple with them. And I was hoping he would sing, but he never, anyway. Yeah.
Pat Green stuck in traffic. Remember they switched spots with Pat. Do you remember that? They ended up playing, like he was stuck in traffic, so they played, and then it's like, Pat Green's not here. The Dead are. You could have left by now.
Yeah.
If Pat Green wasn't stuck in traffic.
No dissing towards Pat Green.
No way.
But that was just like it was like, man, what are y'all doing? This is the Dead here. And Willie's playing with them. He's up there like getting down and everything.
Yeah.
Do you remember that night? Toby Keith came out, and he looked like he was on horse tranquilizers. And I was like, what is wrong with this dude? And then later, I put it together. He was just high as shit.
Yeah.
But he came out there, and he had that black vest on.
Yeah.
And his eyes were like as big as fucking saucers. And I was like,
he didn't know what hit him.
He didn't know what was going on. No. But it was so funny. I was like, what is going on with Toby Keith? But anyway, that was a great show. But then, my cousin was living in Austin, so I dropped him off. And then I went back and I met up. I got met up. They didn't know I was there. But I went back on tour with Widespread. I started in, I think it was Columbus, Ohio, then up to Detroit, then there was a festival in Virginia. And then anyway, then I just started following them around here and there. And that was the impetus was I had to get on the road. I had to figure out how.
Yeah.
And then I got back from that whole run, and it was like almost a month that I was on the road. And I had this wad of cash in I had a 98 Volkswagen Bug with a sunflower in the vase. And after all of the road, after all the gas, all the concert tickets, all the chocolate mushrooms in parking lots, all the weed, all the booze, whatever, everything I did, I had this thick wad of cash from the shirts in my car. And I was like, oh, you can live in this, my cousin calls it the slack. which the Slack is disappearing.
Yeah.
AI is probably going to ferret all that out before we know it. But anyway,
or it'll be only Slack or the rest of it. Like
right.
maybe in a weird way it's widening. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. If you're analog only.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how that happened. And then there were several incarnations of that shirt over time. I'd go for like a New Year's run or something, or yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I did a very similar thing. My thing was fish, but
I had my first bad trip at a fish concert.
Which one? Was I there?
It might have been. It was in Denver in like 2002 or 3.
I was there.
Yeah. You were there?
2 nights there?
Yeah, I think so. There was this woman I knew from Lubbock who needed a ride to Denver, and I was in Fort Worth.
It's like a place called like the Pepsi Center or
something like that. It was indoors.
Downtown.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was 2003, I was there.
That's so funny.
Fall 2003.
Yeah, I think so.
Man, that's awesome.
So you were into fish. That was your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a similar thing, like, I got into fish before the Dead, weirdly, but like,
okay.
I definitely looked at it as like, you can't, Grateful Dead tour, it was this mythic adventure of the time, and it was like, well,
can't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's gone. This is my generation's version of it, and I love the music, loved and still do. Like, I've had my peaks and valleys with it.
Yeah,
but it was very much I want to get out and experience. It is perfect for a young person of that generation, and if in whatever way that it is still alive, I would encourage people to do it because it is really fun. And it for me was like I met some of the people that I started playing music with. I had seen them in Denton. We had talked about we should get together and play, or maybe we had jammed a little bit, but there had been some talks about it.
Yeah.
Or of like, I jammed with a couple guys and was like, oh yeah, we need to get together with this third person. Well, then finally me and, the 3 of us are in upstate New York at a thing. And we're like,
yeah,
when we get home,
this
first thing we're doing is getting together. It was a good like sense of purpose thing, like I am off and doing this right now with my friends and having a good time. But as soon as I get back home, we are getting down to business. We are going to do this thing.
Yeah.
Like it was a good recalibration, as a way from school, from my family, from my girlfriend, from anyone that I had musical connections with. I knew I wanted to get home. I wanted to play. And I was like, and I'm going to create something new with some new people.
Yeah. Very similar. I can't, it would be hard to quantify, but enormously influential on the way that I was like, oh, this is possible, like not even as a profession, but as like a lifestyle. Like, oh, I love being on the road. I love being in all these places. And
you still sell t-shirts.
And I still sell t-shirts. Yeah. Yeah. That nobody's confiscating them because we got my name on them now. But no,
I'm going to sell Keegan McInroe bootleg shirts at the show.
Man, if somebody pulls out a lanyard and, then I'm doing really well. Let that man cook, man. But yeah, no, that was, following them around was definitely influential on the music that I was playing.
Were you toting an acoustic guitar everywhere and parking lot jams and the whole thing?
Yeah.
Campfire.
There was a lot of that.
Awesome.
There was a lot of that. More than anything, though, I was a businessman. So I show up at the lot early, and you're one of the first cars there, and then everybody comes by. Like, you get to talk to everybody, and you got your shirt. Now, they know you have this shirt. And my cousin was mailing me more shirts. Like, the shirts, they were selling.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. Except, the band, I'm sure none of them felt the pain of that, merchant. That's what you want. You want a lot shirt when you go to this kind of stuff, something unique.
Yeah. What's funny, I remember that because I did a similar thing and we got busted doing it. But like, then I remember I was at Woodlands Pavilion or whatever in Houston with my friend, and I'd taken him there, and that was his I got it moment.
Yeah. This must be that venue.
Dude, that place is magical. I'm telling you.
Magical, yeah.
And so I was like, I'm getting you a shirt, and I'm getting you the real shirt. Like, and I remember standing there with like thousands of other people being like, and I just remember thinking, for some reason, I was like, these shirts are $22 a piece. And for some reason I looked around, I was like, and this is 1,000 people. They're making $22,000 in shirts.
Yeah.
And I know it's way more than that, but there's no way we were hurting their business.
Right. Well, and for some reason, the official shirts were never as cool as the lot shirts.
Yeah.
Like, they were always better shirts. And you're like, you know, what would have been really smart would have been for them to have like an open, like, you know, give us your designs and show us your, and we'll pay you for them, or you can sell these and we'll also sell or whatever. Cause there were so many, I mean, I've lost a lot of them now, but I had some Widespread Panic shirts that were just incredible. And then you look at the official merchandise and you're just like, I'm just not that into that.
Same logo.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It was always way more creative in the lot.
Well, I mean, those people living the life, man.
They got to make it around, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was something too, you'd be kind of sneaky. You couldn't, because you couldn't use a logo, or you couldn't use their likeness.
Right.
Or so you had to be a little, work around it. And maybe there might be a joke in there where someone's like, okay, it's a guy and a bull and a cat and a dog. Yeah. Oh.
I had a Love Tractor idea for, their song Love Tractor.
I'm not familiar with Love Tractor.
It's a good song, and it was one of the few that Dave Schools, the bass player, sang.
Hell yeah!
And I had an idea for a shirt that I never made for Love Tractor that would have been a go getter, but
it is not too late.
It's not too late. They're still around.
Yeah,
I can still get arrested. I think when you look like you're 20, they're like, "Okay, kid, get out of here." But probably at our age, they'd be like, "Guys, what are you doing?"
You'd walk around the lot now, and like there'd be people going, "What's that narc doing?"
Yeah, maybe. So he's a little old for,
Yeah. How come Greg Allman's trying to sell me a T-shirt?
It's so funny. I never in my life heard that until about the last 2 or 3 years. And I will have people like go out of their way to be like, hey. And I'll be like, yeah. They're like, anybody ever told you look just like Greg Allman? I'm like, dude, not until just very recently.
Yeah.
But that's
with the long light hair with the beard.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it till just now, actually.
It stopped being so red. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Once it started lightening up a little bit and getting that kind of like that, in between gray and white and red. And yeah, that's when it's really started. I still see it as red, but it is definitely not.
Yeah, it's lightened up in some spots.
Yeah, it's lightened up in some spots.
Well, all right. So what's next? Where are we going?
Well, I have, of course, I always have some shows around town, things like that. But I'm going to the UK in mid-April for about a month.
You do that every year?
Yeah, I do. I usually, so between 2012, 2019, I was about half every year over in Europe playing. And 2022, I guess I started making tours back over there. Germany was where I would mostly end up when I would go, because in the last several years, because that's where my kind of principal band I put together over there was based in Dresden. But yeah, I try to get over to sometimes the mainland and sometimes just the UK. And this year will be the UK for about a month, and then Ireland, and then I'll be back late May or maybe mid-June. We'll see what happens with all crazy world events.
You got places to crash?
Oh yeah. And I mean, Europe's pretty good about in general. And I don't know if it's just like this guy's from Texas, he needs a place to stay, or if it's just more of a thing there, but like, it's very uncommon for me to play a gig in Europe and then not to offer some sort of accommodation.
Cool.
Whereas in the States, it's very uncommon for them to offer accommodation until you're at a certain point. Mm-hmm. Then it's expected. But up, at the level that I'm at here, almost non-existent. Whereas in Europe, it's, like you could play a coffee shop and they're like, well, do you have a place to stay? And you're like, I could use a place to stay. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're on a barista's couch, or maybe they get you a hostel room or something. But they typically it's a hotel room.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's next. I started the Fort Worth Songwriter Festival a couple years ago and producing that. So that'll be in November. That'll be the next big thing here in town as far as, that kind of thing goes.
I would like to sidebar with you about that.
Yeah.
About a potential to do this.
Would love that.
To like either have you talk to some people or me. I feel like that'd be a really cool pipeline because the names you guys are pulling in for that are people that I would love to have access to, but because I'm nobody.
You're definitely more than nobody.
Well, to you. So if I had you going, hey, this nobody, he's somebody, trust me, then I might.
And they'll be like, who the hell are you? And I'm like, well, I'm also a nobody, but I did invite you to play this festival.
Yeah, signing your checks. So don't you love me?
That'd be Brooks probably.
Well, either way,
yeah.
I told Brooks to write you a check. Yeah. That makes me somebody. So anyway, that was a sidebar.
Yeah.
That would be fun because there's some people I would, that's been really like other than your own self-interest. Why did you do that?
So,
and it could also just be your own self-interest.
No, one of the things that happened on the other side of the pandemic, one of the first shows back in Fort Worth that was like a show that like the local community came out for. We did a Willie Special show for 420, like April 2021. Mm-hmm. And, in the beginning of the pandemic, everybody loved each other. Let's help each other out. We were doing fundraisers for each other. And then by about, week 3 or 4 or whenever it was, probably mask mandates were one of the things that was the first, like people started really getting angry at each other. But whatever it was, there was a lot of just like unpleasantness between people all of a sudden online. And so I had been for years sort of using social media occasionally as like, hey, we should really care about this war. Hey, we should really care about this. Hey, we should, hey, did y'all know about Operation Northwoods or whatever it is, And then we had this, so we just gone out of this really very political feeling. Everything was very like, every time you got online, people had opinions. I had opinions. I wrote an article for the Star Telegram and all this stuff. Well, then we did this show, and all of these people who had been keyboard warrioring each other were there. Everybody was beaming. The vibe was like so high, not just because of the copious amounts of 420 fun happening. And I was like, I've done more good doing this show, bringing people together, than I've done in 12 years of trying to get people to see things that I think are important or that I think matter or whatever. Yeah. And then we started doing a thing, me and Katie Robertson and James Hinkle got involved, a lot of other people on every Sunday at Lola's for about 5 months, 5 or 6 months. Every Sunday, Keegan and Katie and friends. And again, just that bringing people together and so seeing how much, for one, like practical good it seemed to be doing for community. And that was the other thing kind of coming out of the pandemic was like the importance of community, not as some sort of, just like concept or the nice word you throw around, but actually like, community isn't a bunch of people who think the same thing. People think wildly different things within a community, but they come together for common purposes or common interest or common, so you end up loving people that you may have diametrically opposed opinions from because y'all are sitting there building a house together, or you're putting a latrine in, or you're doing whatever, like that's what builds community, not some sort of, single idea. This is what we all have to think, or this is what we all have to do, but a common thing that brings people together of different interests. Seeing the importance of community after that, seeing the value that I got from bringing people together and seeing the value that I saw other people get from being brought together. I thought, man, I want to do something bigger with this. Simultaneously, in the back of my mind, I'm seeing all these friends of mine playing these songwriter festivals all over the place. I'm like, well, why the fuck doesn't Fort Worth have a songwriter festival? This is like a songwriter's town, and always has been. And then I ended up being brought on as I got hired to put together like an awards ceremonies band for the Addy Awards. It's like an advertising agency awards, and they have like local, regional, and national. But this was like the local version of it, to perform this night of music for the Addies in Fort Worth at the Southside Preservation Hall. And I'd never been there before. And I went in there and I was just like, oh my God, this place is amazing. It has a smell, and it's not vomit and stale beer. It's like, it's been here a while. Like there's history. You can smell the history in this room, you know? And so I had set up an appointment, a meeting with Matthew Williams, to talk about doing my Agnes, the album I did, Agnes, that we recorded out in Terlingua, to do the album release show in the chapel, the Rose Chapel there at the hall. So we got done with that meeting, and then I looked at him as we were about to walk off, and I said, you know, what the Southside Preservation Hall would be perfect for is the mothership for a songwriter festival. And his eyes lit up, and he was like, yes. And that was how it was. That was kind of how it was born. And we were going to, originally our thought was we were going to run it through the Southside Preservation Hall, which is a nonprofit organization. But the minute that we started trying to do anything with the festival, he's like, well, we'll need to talk to the board about this. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. I can't go to somebody else's board to do stuff for the festival. So I was talking with a buddy of mine who's a lawyer. And I said, well, how would you recommend this? And he goes, why don't you start your own foundation? What about the Fort Worth Songwriter Foundation? And I was like, is that not already taken? And looked it up. Sure enough, nobody had done the Fort Worth. There's a Fort Worth Songwriter Association, but there is no Fort Worth Songwriter Foundation. So I was like, wow, that would allow us
501c3, the whole thing. Okay, cool.
We're officially recognized. We've since just before the festival, the first year. So this will be our third year, and I had a really great meeting this morning with Roxo, the TCU's student-led advertising agency. Is going to we're kind of their project this year. They have one or two businesses they'll work with every year to kind of help give the students real world experience, and we're working with them, and they're amazing. So that we had a really great meeting this morning with them. But yeah, that's how it started, and so the foundation, really exciting. It allows us to do good things year round. Right now, the foundation is basically trying to make the festival happen. Like that's our main, we're still trying to get all those things working, fundraising and blah, blah, blah. But we have a lot of really exciting ideas for the foundation that we can, going forward once we kind of get our feet underneath us a little bit better and some more funding in place. I think that's what you do as a nonprofit. So you just look for funding constantly.
Oh yeah.
So that's what we're doing. But that's really exciting. And I love that because as you were saying, like outside of your own self-interest, I have been starting so many emails for so long with, hi, my name is Keegan McInroe and I'm a Fort Worth songwriter, or I'm a blah, 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 blah. I've never worked harder on anything than I've worked on the festival the last 2 years. And it's been so rewarding to pour into something that doesn't have my name on it. To pour into something that's like outside of myself, bigger than myself. And so that's something I'm really excited about. And otherwise, there's I have enough material for 2 or 3 sequels to Neon John. So, and I have an idea that I'm kind of working on for the next album, or at least the next big album. It will be called Postcards from the Dystopias, I think. And it'll be
awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And it'll be like snapshots from different dystopias of, very, very like first person sort of.
And you got a lot to choose from.
Well, increasingly so. And that was actually born out of a situation that wasn't particularly lighthearted. But there's a woman in Germany whose great aunt was basically disappeared during World War II or leading up to World War II, and was put on a train in Hamburg and just never seen again. And her name was Gretchen, and my friend was making like sort of a multimedia project out of it. And she was telling me the story, and I was like, man, that's amazing. She's like, you think you could write a song? I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, and I think approaching it in a very human way without any sort of heavy-handed or on the nose, like political commentary, but to be like, this is a real story. Somebody experienced this, somebody lived this, and speaking from that voice, I think my album, A Good Old Fashioned Protest, is pretty on the nose right from the get-go, and there's only that vehicle only goes so far, I think, in that manner. Whereas I think you can speak a lot to things and from kind of that existential place of like the lived experience.
Can be more universal.
Yeah. So I'm that's a project I have in my mind. And then just, I'll keep playing. Hopefully we'll keep doing Willie special shows, and, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. This whole thing will just keep on moving along.
I'm having a blast, man.
Yeah,
I had great fun being a part of Neon John
so nice to have you on both those
release. And so yeah, I'm down for more.
Good.
Yeah, let's do more. Awesome, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This has been a blast.
All right, talk more soon.
I hope so.